Picture the most powerful city on Earth, a place where banks move billions of dollars every single day, where over 300 languages are spoken on the same street. A city that has shaped music, law, fashion, and global power for centuries. Now picture that same place. 2,000 years ago, nothing, a cold, foggy riverbank, mud, a wide river with no bridge. So how does a muddy riverbank become one of the greatest cities ever built? The answer involves a queen who burned the whole city to the ground, a disease that killed half the population, a fire that destroyed everything in 4 days, and bombs falling from the sky while the people below refused to leave. This is the complete history of London, and I promise it is one of the most extraordinary stories ever told. Before London existed, Britain was already full of people, tribes, farmers, warriors. They lived along the river the Romans would later call the Thames, and the spot where London now stands was already a crossing point, a place where the river was narrow enough to get across. But it was not a city. That required people who were very good at one thing: conquering. In the year 43 AD, the Roman Emperor Claudius sent 40,000 soldiers to invade Britain. They crossed the Thames, built a bridge, and right next to that bridge, built a town. They called it Londinium. The location was perfect. Ships could bring goods from across the empire directly up the river, and whoever controlled the bridge controlled movement across half the island. Within decades, Londinium had markets, public baths, temples, and a growing population. It was becoming the most important city in Britain, but not everyone was happy about it. There was a queen named Boudicca. She led a tribe called the Iceni. Her husband had made a deal with Rome. When he died, they would share his kingdom with his family. When he died, Rome ignored the deal, took everything. And when Boudicca protested, the Romans had her beaten publicly in front of her daughters. That was the last mistake they ever made with her. Boudicca gathered an army of over 100,000 people and marched on Londinium. The Roman governor did not have enough soldiers to defend the city. He evacuated his troops and left the people behind. Boudicca burned the city to the ground. Today, archaeologists can still find a thin layer of reddish-brown ash beneath the streets of London. The physical remains of that fire, almost 2,000 years old, still sitting beneath the city. Imagine standing on the ashes of a city that had completely vanished. Smoke still rising, charred timber everywhere. And then, almost unbelievably, the Romans started over, as if they refused to let Londinium die. By the year 100 AD, Londinium had up to 60,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the Roman Empire. But in 410 AD, Rome collapsed and pulled its soldiers out of Britain. Without the empire holding everything together, London emptied out. One of the greatest cities in the Western world became nearly abandoned. For almost 200 years, it sat in ruins. Then the Anglo-Saxons arrived from what is today Germany and Denmark. They built a new settlement along the river, and London slowly came back to life. Then the Vikings raided it, over and over and over again, until a king named Alfred the Great pushed them back, moved the city inside the old Roman walls, rebuilt the defenses, and gave London a second life. In 1066, everything changed again. A man named William, Duke of Normandy in France, invaded England, killed the English king at the Battle of Hastings, and took the throne. William the Conqueror was crowned on Christmas Day and immediately began sending London a message. He built the Tower of London, that massive stone fortress you can still visit today, right on the riverbank. The message was simple: this city is mine now. London exploded in size under Norman rule. Trade, markets, churches. Hundreds of churches packed into an area smaller than a single square mile. By the early 1300s, the population had reached 80,000 people. And then, the worst thing that had ever happened to the city arrived by ship. In 1348, a disease reached England that no one understood, and no one could stop. The Black Death. It spread through fleas on rats, moved through the crowded streets of London with terrifying speed, and killed most people within days of showing symptoms. There was no treatment, no explanation. People prayed and died anyway. By the time it passed, between a third and half of London's entire population was dead. Walk down your street, look at every third house, everyone inside, gone. In under 2 years, it took London more than a century to recover. Then came a king who changed everything, not through war, but through marriage. Henry VIII wanted to end his marriage to his first wife. The Catholic Church said no. Henry's response was to create his own church, make himself its head, and do whatever he wanted. He then seized all the monasteries in London, the great religious buildings that had owned land and served the poor for centuries, tore many of them down and sold off their wealth. The landscape of the city changed almost overnight. His daughter Elizabeth later ruled for 45 years and turned London into a cultural powerhouse. It was during her reign that a young writer from a small town arrived in London and began performing his plays for crowds at the Globe Theatre on the south bank of the Thames. His name was William Shakespeare. He wrote for everyone. Poor workers standing in the mud for a penny, wealthy merchants in the good seats above. His words still echo through the entire world today. Then the city faced 2 disasters, back to back. In 1665, plague returned and killed around 100,000 people, a quarter of London's population. The city was still recovering when, in September 1666, a fire started in a bakery on Pudding Lane. London at that time was almost entirely wooden buildings packed tightly together. The summer had been dry. A strong wind was blowing. The fire spread for 4 days straight. When it was over, 13,000 homes were gone, 87 churches destroyed. The great medieval St. Paul's Cathedral, the heart of the city for centuries, was rubble. 80,000 people had nowhere to sleep. But London rebuilt. An architect named Christopher Wren designed a new St. Paul's Cathedral with a dome that still stands over the city today. The new London rose from the ashes, in brick and stone instead of wood, more permanent, more powerful than before. Over the next 2 centuries, Britain built the largest empire in human history. At its peak, it controlled a quarter of the entire world, and London sat at the center of all of it. Ships from every ocean docked on the Thames. The population went from 600,000 in 1700 to over 6 million by 1900, making London the largest city on Earth. Then came the bombs. During World War II, from 1940 to 1941, German aircraft bombed London almost every single night. Over 40,000 civilians were killed. 1 million homes were damaged or destroyed, and the people of London slept in the subway tunnels, kept working, kept going, and refused to leave. London held. Today, nearly 9 million people call London home. Over 300 languages spoken, one of the top financial centers on the planet. Museums, universities, theaters drawing people from every country in the world. And under all of it, under the subway tunnels, under the office towers, under the coffee shops, lies that thin layer of reddish-brown ash. Boudicca's fire, 2,000 years old, still there. This city has been burned, invaded, emptied by plague, destroyed by fire, and bombed from the air. And every single time, it came back stronger. That is not luck. That is the story of London. If this video helped you see history differently, hit the like button right now. It helps this channel more than you know.